there's a decent prospect of that being approved. And we can provide timely feedback to anybody. We appreciate that this is an unusual spot.
Yeah.
We appreciate we may get some unusual ideas, and therefore we're committed to providing timely feedback to people that are
Good. And I think the third...
Yeah, how does the planning go beyond the term of the license? In other words, when you look at a structure, a building, whatever it might be, beneficial reuse, is that something that gets into a discussion phase to say that the commission or the Bright Town Park has a beneficial reuse beyond the license term? Or let's say something happens with the end user during the term of the license. Do we look at that concept, or is that something that we try not to do?
I think they have two unique things about this is, the buildings are historic, so they're on the register or eligible, and you're dealing with a park. So they're going to have if their license agreement ends, those buildings really remain, the property ownership really remains you. So you are protected long term. But that relates to a third business item I wanted to mention to you, and that is we're assuming that during the useful life of the lease, whether it's 20 years or even 50 years, that this entity is controlling revenue and cost to a net zero for you. In other words, the objective of this is that this facility does not cost Rye Town any money, but in return that the entity running it gets the revenue, which seems to me to be the model that we've seen. In other words, we're not trying to make money on this transaction.
No,
it's a netting out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
We're really trying to get these buildings refurbished more than anything else.
Those were the three. Those are the three business terms we were thinking of sort of listing in the RFP, just being specific in the RFP.
Perfect. And again, you don't have to wait for monthly meetings to get feedback.
Who's our liaison to the committee?
Mayor and myself.
Okay, so you're leaving?
Yeah.
All right, so I was going to, was I formally a liaison or not?
Yep.
Yeah, I was always, so I was always going to be.
So you could be anything you want.
Yep. Fortunately, I do know where Benny's office is.
Yeah. So we got myself, and then so we need to replace Mayor French. I don't know if anybody would wait till January to replace Mr. Mayor French.
I think that's right. I think
Okay, so but you don't ever hesitate to get in touch with us immediately.
Okay, great.
And Benny, myself, Bishop.
Yeah.
We understand the need to provide timely feedback, and we're fully committed to doing that.
Yeah, and thank you. We just wanted to brief
I appreciate it, sure.
We wanted to brief you tonight on these items because now, as we turn into the RFP with the committee, what comes back to you is not a surprise.
Wonderful.
Well, we have the full commission here. Should we ask for a vote on that expense of $695?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
For those of you who came in, I was saying that
if you look at the last page of this,
the last bit, for us the key, and I think the committee agrees that a key to this is the RFP that we're working with now that had been issued is a very, very good one. We just want to get some business terms in and be a little clear on it. But the biggest thing we want to do is get this out to the right people. And one of the best organizations that we know of is ULI. That's where all the developers are. And when you're dealing with a private organization that's developers, it sometimes costs money to reach them. And that's the email response, just so you see it. So earlier we discussed just for Paul to just amend the contractor just so that there's an expense budget you control. I mean, I can't go to ULI without spending $695. That type of thing.
Do you want us to, please, Linda?
I just had a general question. How do any of you see the possible dissolution of the town of Rye impacting with the development and execution of this RFP and possibly making a 20-year commitment to something?
Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, but I don't really see it impacting, because even if it were voted next November, the dissolution wouldn't take place till January 2016. So we're very much hoping that this process will be concluded long before that.
You were just saying, for example, this would not be a revenue stream to any of the interested parties. Right? This would not represent a cost to the town of Rye and it would also, on the other side, not represent a revenue stream of any kind.
Well, look, I think the expectation, I mean, if we could get revenue, terrific. I think, it's ultimately going to depend on the plan that comes before us. But I think the principal goal, at least from my thinking, is to rebuild the infrastructure there. We have infrastructure that hasn't received investment, as we talked about, for 50, 60 years. So it's just a wasting asset. And given our financially constrained environment, we're hoping that this is an efficient, effective way really to refurbish infrastructure. That would be my top goal. Obviously, if we can generate income for our communities, that would be terrific as well. But I wouldn't expect, if the town dissolved, that, Rye City is not looking to run it very much differently, I would think, I think the goals would be the same. And look, clearly the facility is located in Rye City. So we appreciate that there's an important stakeholder group that surrounds the park. And so I don't think you've seen it with Playland. There's nothing. I don't think anything's going to be shoved down anybody's throat. So I think, my expectation in this current configuration will take into consideration the stakeholder groups, all the different stakeholder groups, and I think that there'll be, I can't imagine, I don't think except for one, I think the one issue is the dog issue. We didn't have a unanimous vote on the commission in the 6 years I've been here. So
and I will say that it's anticipated that the park will survive the dissolution of the town of Rye if that happens.
Okay.
So the park will remain there as an asset. And I would say, at least from my perspective, I don't expect the park to generate a profit for the city of Rye or any of the other stakeholders in the park. But it is a way. We're looking into this as a way to refurbish the building. So I would agree completely with Joe on that. I don't think it would be different.
The question, too, is the vision that everybody has for that park long-term. So,
right,
Sure.
and I did feel that I might be remiss if I didn't remind you that one of the things that the RFP does very well is set out the unique position of that park in a neighborhood. And it's much more distinctively in a neighborhood than neighboring Playland is. I mean, both of them are in a neighborhood, but the neighborhood really surrounds the park.
I said, in fact, it's why we did the board in back of Bishop, it's why we did that board to set the context of the park. We thought it would be helpful to keep, the RFP is very well written, we think, and makes that point. We want to keep all that. But also we thought of putting in some, not that developers aren't going to Google it themselves, but put in some context and note that context, and then put in the context of where we think they ought to concentrate, namely on the buildings that exist now, which is the board in back of that. So.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Sandra. Thanks very much. So can I get a motion to vote to approve the $695 BFP will,
BFJ.
Pardon me? BFJ will need in order to go to the Urban Land Institute? Can I get a motion to do that?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, and actually, do I need to call the meeting to order first formally or not?
No,
Okay,
you did
so I
it.
actually-
You did that already.
Well, we did do the quorum. So can I get a motion to bring the meeting to order?
Some of.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Noah, did you quickly call the roll?
Okay. Commissioner Brett,
Here.
Commissioner Salinitro.
Here.
Commissioner Rosenberg.
Yes.
Commissioner Pagano is absent. Commissioner French.
Here.
Commissioner Carvin.
Here. Great, and so then, I'm sorry, can I get a motion to approve the $695 expenditure now that we're in motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now,
I would just add, though, that if the town does dissolve, the asset then transfers to the village of Rybrook, Portchester, and the city of Rye.
Right.
So they're still going to have...
Becomes a jointly held
Yeah.
asset.
well, exactly. So in fact, actually, that's there. I have to apologize. I have to leave in about 10 minutes, and Deputy Supervisor Villanova has kindly agreed to take over the meeting. Or I'm going to actually, Mr. Deputy Supervisor Villanova, if you don't mind, I'm going to, since it's you jointly run it with Mayor French since Mayor French's last meeting. There's two issues I'd like to attend to, and then if Deputy Supervisor Villanova, you could take over. I wanted to talk about the town dissolution, in fact,
Okay.
and give an update on that. And basically, Commissioner Rosenberg knows, of course, and so the town dissolution study, and you have an update in your packet from Steve Otis.
I read it.
And so this outlines the issues in front of us, and we're going to get together again. Dan Tartaglia, again, thanks so much for all your hard work. I really appreciate it. The work in front of us, and we're going to begin to reconvene the steering committee, I think January 9th. I know there's some issues in time.
Yes.
And so that's the first thing. In terms of, we haven't worked out how that will impact this commission yet. And again, if the town were to be dissolved, the earliest we could vote really would be this November 2014. You then need a year to implement. So if you were to dissolve the town, the earliest that would actually take place would be January 2016. So that's pretty much the update. So we haven't given up on it. We're selling this building. We're continuing to reduce costs. But in terms of the town dissolution, that will continue to move forward. And I think, Mayor French, did you have some questions or comments on that, or anybody else have questions on council?
Just a friendly request that when we have steering committee meetings, could we please not do it at 5 o'clock?
Well, I was going to say, do you want two things? One, I'm happy to move it later if you like, because I know you're coming from the city.
Yeah, I mean, tonight was an
No, I'm talking about even for the January 9th meeting, if we can coordinate that, or come in by phone till you get there also.
That would be great, but even 6 o'clock, from
I'm
any
happy to
time
do
after
that.
6 o'clock.
If you want to recirculate for 6 o'clock. Yeah, sure. We want to recirculate for 6 o'clock on the 9th?
Sure.
So let's try that. Yeah, sure. No, I saw your email. Good. Any guess, please?
So, Mayor, I was also on the 514. And so the train stalled. I had to go to the other train and then the other issues. So I actually took it directly here to Portchester. No, but if the dissolution does not take place, I want to restate my request that the commission look at expanding the board so that it's equitable in terms of RISE representation. I don't know if you know, Mayor, and Laura, I'm sure you know, it used to be 5 seats, and Rye had 2 of the 5 seats. Once Rybrook came into existence, they added a 6th seat, which basically watered down our contribution, but our percentage is still the same. We pay 48% of the operating loss, and we pay 39% of the capital expense. So I would want Rye to have a 3rd seat and expand the board to 7 seats. Now, our state legislators say they don't want to take that back to the state until they get the dissolution resolved. And I'm okay with that.
Right.
But I'd like to restate that for the record, that should it not happen, that the commission at least explore that issue. I know the mayor of Mamaroneck would like to have a seat on here as well, since they have a portion of Rye Town. So that's something that I think I'd ask the board to reconsider.
And, I've said I'm hoping that, again, also trying to accommodate the mayor of Mamaroneck as well in that regard.
Yeah. But be careful, we might start throwing tea into Long Island Sound, because, that sounds like taxation without
exactly
representation, right? It's disproportionate, so.
Tea party, why not?
Just a question, Mr. Supervisor.
Please.
What would need to happen in order to make that a reality? Is that state legislation that
It
would...
has to,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And they don't want to move it unless the board is united. Well,
Right. Sure.
that we want to make that change. I'd also request, Supervisor, that
Please.
that you on the capital committee, if you're going to participate, that you designate a head of communications. What we found in the SPI and the Playland, Sustainable Playland, is there was a lot of misinformation out there, and you needed one person to be the voice to answer and address the questions. And it was, does the county speak on this? Does SPI speak on this? Does the city speak on this? I think if this is a commission project, you should designate, and as supervisor, maybe you should be the point person for communication to address all the questions that are going to come up about the process, about what happens, with the bids and the specs and all of that.
Actually, I think that's an excellent idea. And I'd like to suggest that I'm happy for it to be the commission liaisons, but it has to come from the commission.
Right.
It can't be the committee.
Right.
So it's either Commissioner Salanicho, whoever replaces you, and myself. But I think it has to be one of the 3 authorized, and then presumably, we'll be coordinating the comments and saying the same thing, because we'll have had the same. But I think you're absolutely, and it has to be the commission, it can't be the committee.
Right.
I think that's absolutely correct. You had some other old business. Maybe we'll just run through those. Do we have any recommendation? I don't think we'll choose a capital chair appointment tonight, but since this is your last meeting, did you have any suggestions of people you might like to see there?
Mr. Tartaglia.
Yeah.
I think he'd be terrific.
I think he's done a terrific job.
Yeah.
I think he's done a terrific job. I don't know. Do we want to vote on that tonight, or do we want to
Is he willing to accept it?
I haven't even. I think let's discuss it.
I think we need to.
But I think Mr. Tartaglia
He's
again.
assumed that role in the absence of Christina, so I think,
Perfect.
I think he's already assumed that role, so I'd be willing to make the motion to appoint.
Well, let's just let you, let's just wait, because I think he's doing it in any case, and I think that let's just have time to consensualize that. Now, maybe just go through these other issues, these old business issues, Mayor French.
Yep. On the lease extension, I understand that the commission already rejected the request.
Right.
But I do think that they have been an excellent
This is
tenant.
just to explain to people at home, Seaside Johnny's, it expires 2016,
Right, December 2016.
and he's asked for an extension.
He's asked for a one-year extension.
And it was rejected at one of the previous meetings.
Right, I think it was 2 meetings ago.
Okay, please, go.
So, but I do think he deserves more of an explanation. I think he was upset. He's a long-term tenant. He's invested a lot in the property. So I just think the commission...
Well, I wasn't at that meeting.
Right.
But for me, and I'm glad you brought that up. Look, I like all our participants in our park, and you know, and some have, but I think, as you said, he's been a good neighbor for a number of years, and I think in this case it makes no sense to extend it, given the process we're just talking about.
Yeah.
So I think it doesn't have to do with him. It has to do far more with the process we're undergoing now. If we get to this time next year or the second half of next year, so again, I don't think it was anything untoward. I think it really had far more to do with the process. I didn't vote there, but I wouldn't look to extend it until we had more clarity on this process.
Right. And so having said that, I agree. I just think he needs that explanation. But
Sure.
I think it's still 3 years out, though. It's 14, 15, and 16.
Right.
So there's still plenty of time. But at some point, a process has to be established. And
Yep.
so it's clear to all the participants. However, I do want to say that, when he was brought on board originally, taxes were waived, and we didn't really have the exact model of how is a restaurant of that size and scale going to impact the surrounding area. So I do want to repeat my request that when the lease is renewed or it is considered to enter into a new lease, that the commission looks at impact fees that are borne by the city of Rye, from police and fire and all of the things that a restaurant with alcohol 7 days a week bring to the community. I think at the outset that was fine. We had to get somebody in. I wasn't
Right.
on the commission.
Right.
And you waive those types of things, but we now know what the business case is. Property taxes, that's in the courts. That's another discussion.
Right.
But I do think an impact fee is something the commission should consider.
No, I think that makes sense. Actually, that you mentioned property taxes. Mr. Noda, did you want to talk about this lawsuit at all? I know you have it on the.
I want to? No, you wanted me to.
Well, let's bring up the lawsuit. I know, Mayor French, if you had any comments, and I know you've given me an earful. I thought this is your opportunity to.
Well, no, I've explained to you the situation. If you want me to brief the commission, I'm happy to do that.
Let's bring you up and let's see, Mayor French. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
I was just going to say, the state put this commission together for a reason. That's for the municipalities to work together. We shouldn't be in the courts deciding this issue. We should be working together, looking at options like an impact fee. I do know the notice of appeal is still out there. We have until January 23rd to perfect the appeal. That will be up to the new mayor and the new council. But I don't want that to reflect on all of the goodwill that we've created the last 4 years in Rye Town and Rye City, really working together. And results matter. The proof is in the results. We had a profit of what, 1340, Bishop?
1346.
Mr. Nawat? I mean, what? In 08, it was $400,000 loss. Right?
Yeah.
So I think in everybody working together, that we should be doing the same thing and not really in the court. So
you're right. I couldn't agree with you more, obviously. And I don't know. How about you, Mr. Noda? How do you come out on this?
Well, I mean, I think actions speak louder than words. I think it's nice for the mayor to say that, but candidly, the actions of the city don't reflect those feelings. And I would say that, and I'm not sure if Mayor, you're aware of what's going on.
I'm actually not.
Let me give you some brief background. The Seaside Johnny's has been at the park for many years and had been tax exempt. I guess 2 or 3 years ago, the City of Rye assessor revoked that exemption, and which we objected to. So we filed a certiorari, went to the Board of Assessment Review. The city rejected it. So we went to court. We couldn't resolve it. So the judge, and we made a motion to dismiss and to have the exemption restored. The judge, Tolbert, wrote a 25-page decision agreeing with everything we said and ordered the city to restore the exemption and to pay back our taxes with interest. The city has not done that. In fact, the city has, not only have they not done that, they continue to send us bills for taxes, which I've directed Bishop to ignore. There is a provision in the state law of the CPLR 5519 that affords a municipality an automatic stay of an order if it requires certain things to be done. And the city has taken the position that they are afforded that stay and therefore will not comply with Judge Tolbert's order so long as there's a notice of appeal. They did file a notice of appeal, and they have until January 23rd to perfect that appeal. So I am researching the issue. I'm not saying I agree with what the city is doing, but I can certainly see one making that argument that it applies, and I was a little disappointed that I heard it via Bishop from Noreen Whitty and not from Corporation Counsel, if that in fact was the city's position. It was only their position, as far as we know, recently, about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and the decision from Judge Tolbert was about 4 months ago. So all things considered, that's where we're at legally, and we'll await the city's decision on perfecting the appeal. But candidly, working together, it sounds great, but I think the exemption it should not have been removed in the first place. It should be restored. We should be paid the money that we're due. And then I think the town of Rye would feel much better than it does right now towards the city.
And I thank you, Mayor French, for siding with us on that. Thank you, Mr. Noto.
Sure.
I'm going to have to leave, and I was going to ask Deputy Supervisor Villanova to come up. Before I leave, I'd like to give an official proclamation to Mayor French.
Thank you, sir.
I can't thank Mayor French for all the hard work he did. I have to tell you, I really, truly, and honestly believe that he's been an absolutely tremendous public servant. In my view, the Rye City was very lucky to have you. You've been a great friend and contributor to the successful turnaround at Ryetown Park. You worked tirelessly on behalf of the constituents of Ryetown Park to improve the quality of life in Rye City and Ryetown Park. In the 4 years we've been on the commission, we've introduced ongoing community conversations, worked with residents and park staff to make it greener and safer with Caroline Walker and her group, and improved operations, and achieved the very first profitable season at $13.46. That will go down to history, Mayor French.
That's right.
If you hadn't been down there every Saturday, thank you so much. All right, and the good news is now immediately you'll be able to get to your holiday parties, because now Deputy Supervisor Villanova will be here to get it. Have a happy holidays, everybody. Thanks so much. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah.
Happy holidays. Nice to see you.
Okay.
Happy holidays.
Trash downstairs.
Thanks so
And
much.
ask
Thank you.
French
Happy
about the
holidays.
capital fund allocation. Not quite sure.
So, Bishop, do we approve the minutes?
No, we have to
Okay.
do that now.
Okay.
All right, and then we have the dumpster discussion. What do you
Yep.
mean about capital?
Yeah, okay. So the minutes, we've got the minutes of the October meeting. I was not there, so I'll open it up to the commission. Any changes on the October minutes?
Just only that we changed, there's just an error in the template. I see it month after month. It says Paul Rosenberg, Mayor, Village of Rhinebeck.
Oh,
I think that's what changed.
that doesn't say, where is it?
Up on the top, next to roll call.
November,
yeah,
we
I
got
see.
to the
I'm
right-
sorry.
the upper right community.
I apologize.
That's
I have
okay.
it right
Oh,
on
okay.
the
It's
minutes.
correct for November.
Okay,
Thank you.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Oversight. All
I
right.
just would like to add to Joe's proclamation, ditto from the employees down there.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. Much appreciated.
Yeah, you've done a lot.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
I'll make a motion on the minutes to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think we lost our secretary.
It's okay.
Minutes of the November 19th meeting. Any changes to those? I was absent.
I was absent too.
You gonna hold that till January?
Yeah, I think so.
Because we don't have a quorum to approve those?
Correct.
We'll need Joe, okay.
I think that was one of the fastest meetings
Ever?
ever.
All right.
Okay, Bishop, the minutes for the 10:15 have been approved.
Okay.
11:19 is going to be held till January.
Okay.
We're ever going to get a quorum on those minutes?
Well, you have the opportunity to obviously watch the meeting or
Right.
you know.
Of course. Okay.
Good.
comments from the public? We already did those?
We've done that already. We're,
Okay, operations.
the only two items left are the discussion item on the trash dumpsters and your comment on capital fund allocation process.
Okay.
Everything else, I think, has been gone through already.
Okay, so the dumpster. Did you have a recommendation?
Yeah, before that, we did receive an email from Christina Beecher on 12/9, and in her email to the commissioners here, she did mention that Dan Tartagalia had agreed to take over the chair responsibilities.
So should we vote on that?
Yeah, to avoid any confusion that was stated before, Dan is more than willing to be chair, and I would vote to move that he become chair for the committee.
Second?
All right, there's a second, but Bishop, what about Joe? You think Joe wants to be part of this vote?
I think he thought that there might have been some confusion that
Okay.
he wasn't,
I
he wasn't asked.
don't think he
All right,
was,
motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. So the dumpster, you had a recommendation?
I had spoken to, actually, Bishop had done some homework with regards to some costing out of the new comparison, the new dumpsters that we talked about a few months ago. And we're at a point where we need to decide on in my view, need to decide on the process of how we manage our waste removal at the park. And I think, from my point of view, looking at it from a Public Works point of view, how we currently do business needs to be changed. We can't have, in my view, garbage piled in a large open container for a long period of time, which I think maybe twice a week we get picked up. The stench, everything that goes with it is just not harmonic to the environment to have that process. It's probably the least expensive, but I'm not a big least expensive guy. Things need to be done. In my opinion, we need to find a better alternative that isn't the most expensive, but maybe not the least expensive. The problem I have is that we have an agreement, a license. In our license agreement with Seaside Johnny's, we have a maximum of $3,000 per calendar year. This is a 2000 agreement, but correct me if I'm wrong, Bishop, but in 2000, Village of Portchester wasn't charging us any fee for the removal of any garbage, for that matter.
There was some time period where it was being done as an accommodation.
Right. So,
but during the time frame that at least I've been here, I know that Portchester has been charging.
Right.
And for some years prior to this administration.
So I don't know where the 3,000 number came into the 2000 and the 2000 license agreement, but that aside, things have changed and evolved over time where maybe it was just an arbitrary number, but there is a cost of doing business where I just feel strongly that we need to go to a different venue of operations to manage that. It's just not the right way. And I think that we need to talk to Seaside Johnny's about that, because his license agreement does state that he must keep all refuse in a closed container. And it goes on to say a little bit more than that, but we don't even have a closed container for that matter. So I talked to the City of Rye's Public Works Director, Commissioner, and Town and City Engineer, and he's willing to help provide more continuous services on a daily basis if needed, if we had, let's say, 2-yard containers. So maybe that's the alternative. Rather than spend $18,000 on 30-yard roll-off containers, we can spend some sum of money for 2-yard containers that we can get picked up on a daily basis when we need to. I think it's just more
Yeah, our trucks
hygienic.
can't handle the big container.
The small ones you can.
Yeah, the small ones we can.
That's what Ryan said.
I would just want to caution you, in the high season, when we're talking about, let's just say, 4th of July weekend, during the 4th of July weekend, we will have probably 2 pickups just during that weekend. Remember, we have 55-gallon trash containers throughout the park and the beach.
So now
some of them, in fact, many of them are emptied multiple times during the course of the day.
Was the generation of solid waste, is that 50-50 between Seaside Johnny's during, let's say, 4th of July weekend, or is it 50%? Well, what's the percentage between what we generate as a park and what Seaside Johnny's generates? Just curious.
I would say to you that it's hard to delineate because many people are buying product at the snack bar or at the restaurant and then taking it out and you know.
But it's okay.
I'd say
So
it's close to 60/40.
okay. So let's say 50/50.
Right.
So moving off that subject, how is he recycling right now? What's he doing with his cardboard? What's he doing with his glass, metal, plastic?
Well, his staff takes care. His staff takes care of the recycling of the cardboard. They pack it up, and our staff actually drives it down to the transfer station.
Oh, so we provide a further service.
Right.
So my thing is maybe we get a little satellite pickup truck and we dispose of the garbage at either Portchester or the city of Rye. I mean, my point is I don't want to get into the details of it, but if we can get a consensus from the commission that we need to operate differently on how the solid waste is handled out there, then we can further discuss this at another meeting.
Okay.
But something better needs to be done, in my opinion.
I agree with Mr. French, Mayor French. I agree with Benny. The two things that came forward with this is one was the noise. Okay, so first, was there a discussion with Mayor Pagano and the Village of Portchester to modify their route to take it down Playland Parkway and then down to the highway?
No, we have not had a discussion with Mayor Pagano. We did have a discussion with Mayor Pilla when he was on, and at that time it was deemed that would take the driver too far out of his way and take too long. It would add about 10 minutes or so to
okay, so now that conversation from back then is a silly conversation. We're talking about 10 minutes out of their way. So half of the, and just correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure everybody saw the correspondence, half of the concern that I saw, half of the concern was the noise.
Yes.
Okay? So 10 minutes out of someone's way to be a good neighbor, to run a better operation, just like Commissioner Sally just said, to run a better operation. And I would say, I would have thought that the conversation would have been had with Mayor Pagano already, given this, we knew we were going to have this discussion tonight, it was on the agenda. I would suggest that Mayor Pagano gets a phone call tomorrow, and he's very accommodating, and see if, first of all, if that's an option. Okay, if he says no, absolutely not, I don't think, he's a reasonable guy. I don't think he's going to say it's 10 minutes out of somebody's way. I think he's going to tell the guys, listen, let's try to get this done. Go down Playland Parkway. So that's one part of it. The other part of it really is the condition of the dumpsters. Mm-hmm. And I agree that something needs to happen. Obviously, it needs to be looked at, and we need to get a better understanding. But I think that's important. Without speaking with Mayor Pagano first, I think that I don't want to spin on wheels.
There's a third issue. It stinks. I mean, if you're in the center, in that area of the park, it just smells, even when it's empty. So to me, that's the biggest issue. Is it's not amenable to a nice park environment. So it's got to be picked up more often. It's got to have a lid on it.
It spells out Seaside Johnny's requirements plainly here, other than the cost, which I have an objection to.
Did everybody get a
Everything
copy?
else is there. I mean, he's got to provide the enclosure, he's got to clean it, he's got to sign it. I mean, so I think we're providing a heck of a service for him at the $3,000 a year,
right?
And we shouldn't be subsidizing. In my opinion, I don't think we should be subsidizing it, regardless of what it says in the contract. It's a business that needs to be cleaner than what it is currently, and I think it'll go a long way to the quality of life around that area.
Well,
You might want to link it to his extra year.
Well, we're not going into that.
Well,
Yeah, I think we tabled
with
that.
respect to the smell, we had the same problem with neighbors over by Rywood Shopping Center, and because there's a trash compactor behind the D'Agostino, and the neighbors right behind there were complaining about the smell, and all they had to do was they wash it down during the summer with some sort of a bleach concoction, just the pad. It takes about 15 minutes. They do it once a week, and that took care of the end. That was the end of the problem.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily, in my opinion, in favor of a compactor, because you will get a lot of that slop that will come out and becomes more of a problem for cleaning. But if we have, decide what you need for the highest volume, and, the city of Rye has been extremely cooperative. I'm sure Mayor Pagano's team and Portchester will also agree. Maybe between the two of them we can arrange something that's more equitable in terms of timing and everything else. But the 2-yard dumpsters may be more. And by the way, he's required to provide containers as the commission approves. and he hasn't provided that for 10 years now, so we can ask him to provide those containers.
So I also wanted to agree with Mayor French and Commissioner Salanicho that we have an opportunity to do something here because we need to replace that dumpster. And it's the right time to do something that's better. That the trash disposal for a restaurant in Rye Town Park right now is substandard in any of our communities. If they came before any of our planning commissions or planning boards for approval of garbage facilities for a restaurant, it would need to be covered, it would need to be enclosed, and it would need to be picked up daily or as necessary so that it didn't smell. So what we want to do when we move forward is make sure that we raise it to the level of what would be required in all of our communities. So
I agree 100%.
So should we pass a resolution on the intent of the commission?
Well, I think what I'd like to do is maybe if the commission doesn't mind, as me being the spokesperson for the commission, maybe try to evolve a little bit further in terms of quantifying what size containers we need, talking to the folks over in Portchester and the City of Rye, and working with you, Bishop. I mean, we can identify what our needs really are, come up with an appropriate schedule for peak season, and speak to Seaside Johnny's about their requirements that they haven't been doing for us. So maybe we can get a little bit of a cooperative effort. We shouldn't be, they're obligated to deal with the recycling on their own. We shouldn't be doing that. You know, if we're, you know what I'm trying to say?
I understand where the commission seems to be leading. I would just remind you of the phrase, be careful what you wish for. If you are going to now force Seaside Johnny's, for example, to have daily trash pickups, you are putting yourself in a position of now having a truck there every morning or every whatever time on a daily basis, 7 days a week.
It's a positive. For every inconvenience, if every convenience, you need an inconvenience.
Yeah, okay.
The business is generating waste, the waste has to be disposed of.
Well, I was thinking of the noise issue, which was also a significant factor.
But it'll be cleaner. We could consolidate the space. We could make it more friendly in terms of its visual aspect, the smell, and everything else. So for every convenience, I believe there's an inconvenience at times.
I think that the noise could be handled.
Parkway.
I think the noise could be handled. You're 2 blocks. I mean, I talk about some of these silly things that come in front of these boards. It's 2 blocks from Playland Parkway, right down to 95, and you're done. Go where you want to go. I mean, that has to be a stipulation with moving the material.
Right. And if we use smaller containers, it's possible we can use Rise trucks, which are going to be down there 4 days a week anyway.
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that neighborhood is split between Monday, Thursday garbage and Tuesday, Friday garbage, and Wednesday recycling. So we probably have trucks down there 5 days a week already.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, they get deliveries of trucks. There's a constant, when we're in full swing, you know, the garbage truck's not the only thing that operates through there. So I think the residents will be appreciative of that, the frequency of garbage pickup rather than the less frequency of garbage pickup. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Be happy to work with you.
Thank you.
All right, so the capital fund allocation process. Right, so the reason why we have a capital committee and are faced with decades of no investment into the infrastructure of the park is because we've just managed the operating budget for decades. So what I'm recommending that the City of Rye does is that we budget $50,000 a year for our contribution to Rye Town Park. Now, in 2012, we just got the audited numbers, and it wasn't $1. It was $1,300.
$1,346.
Right. So really, we have a net of $48,000 plus that we are going to put into a capital fund at the City of Rye and build that up over time if we don't use that. And then the commission makes a request for capital funding. We then can transfer it over to the commission for various projects. But I think that the commission should also have a capital fund that is built up over time that we all contribute to. So, you know, you send us the bill every April, I think it is. You know, if we're not spending the $50,000 on operating, there's going to be a positive amount that's been budgeted for. We shouldn't throw that back in the undesignated fund balance, but actually put that into a capital fund. Thoughts on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a mechanical issue here, and I understand that you are saying the City of Rye has budgeted X number of dollars. The refund process, if you will, or the funding process has been, up to now, a process where the commission provides the audited financials for the period. They have been certified in terms of the ratios of assessed value for the operating expense share, as well as the 39%, I think it is, for the capital share. We have no provision either in the law or our operations to ask you for additional capital money, except if the commission votes a capital project, then it is refunded or funded after such vote.
Right.
So if there are idle funds, for example, that the $40,000 that you didn't use, that's not accessible to the commission, as I understand it.
Right.
Either from the town of Rye or from the city of Rye.
Right. You have to ask for it.
Right.
Yeah. So we should each fund it separately, or build up separately, and then the commission should ask for to use it based on projects.
Now, you do have the ability to take the $1,346 profit that you have and, in effect, assign that to capital and begin a capital fund. Our expectation here is that now that we've got the formula reasonably close, there will be additional seasons where we see profit. It's not going to be 2013, but it will, certainly happen again and again, we think.
Right. Okay. So that was all I wanted to just raise. Any new business?
Well, how do you want to go forward with the fund allocation process? I mean, where do you want to go from here? Because I think that this is something that we've discussed for years upon years upon years. We know it's there. It's good to point out what the obstacle is. But I think that the board should make a vote or state our intentions that we need to create we're looking here to, what's the process going to be? Well, we really don't know what the process is. But the next step is that this needs to be on the agenda for next month and have the accountant say, okay, guys, this is how you're going to do it. And, whether there's a GASB standard, whatever it may be, let it be applied to our budget or our process so we can identify that in January.
Well, I can suggest a method going forward. If there are, companion resolutions that the town of Rye and the city of Rye are willing to put before their own boards to memorialize the treatment of the budgeted item. For example, the town of Rye budgeted $40,000 this year for Rye Town Park. We may not need that entire $40,000, but the town has the ability to designate that money as, okay, let's set up a Rye Town Capital Fund. And anything we don't need for operating, we leave there for successive potential capital projects.
And we do the same thing in the city.
If both communities that are supporting the park can do something like that, now you have a formal process that people can depend on.
Right, I'll make that recommendation tomorrow night at our city council meeting.
Yeah. Right. And I think it's a great recommendation. I think it's something that it really should all be applauded that we're in a position now where we can actually apply a budgeted expenses for the park to capital. I think that's a terrific situation to be in right now.
Should we have Mr. Terenzi give us a report, an analysis for our consideration for the next meeting?
I think he should. And if long as it's okay with Mayor Rosenberg, I'll mention it tonight at the town board meeting.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's good. So we made some progress there, for sure.
Okay.
That's great.
New business?
Any new business?
I don't have any.
Didn't we already do it? Didn't we do
We approved the budget? We didn't adopt.
No.
No, that's...
So you won't get the, you're talking budget?
Yeah.
Oh, you won't get the budget until probably January on a preliminary basis. What we want to do is we want to be able to kind of close out the year, get the year-end adjustments made, and then you will have a much closer picture. It may not be the final picture, but you will have a much closer picture to budget against.
Okay. Well, great. Let me just thank the staff. You know what? Results matter, but also people make a difference. That's one of the guiding principles I live by. And you guys have been terrific to work for. And my fellow commission members, I would have to say, though, sitting on the 514 tonight stalled, I was glad this was my last meeting.
So
Anyway.
I'm not sure that Supervisor Carvin gave you quite enough credit, and I know he did his best, but he was on his way out. But I really think that the park and everybody who uses the park owes Mayor French a ton of thanks for his commitment to the park for the 4 years that he's been mayor. It's definitely been a priority from you from the beginning, and you've really made huge improvements in the enjoyment of the park for the entire community, and making sure that the park is a resource for all of our communities and open to people, and trying to attract residents back to Rye Town Park, and you've done a fantastic job. So
Great, thank you.
thank
Thank you. Yep. So with that, motion to adjourn?
Happy holidays to all.
Yep, happy holidays.
Thank you. You guys were together.